Someone wrote every word of this letter with all that they feel. These aren't just sentences. It's what the heart yearns to express. When read, it will be understood. It will be felt. Because every beat of this person's heart is imprinted in each line. And when the eyes scan these words, let it be clear. It's real. It's profound. And it's meant for someone who needs to know. But there's something more, something that cannot be captured in just a few lines. Because feelings like this do not fit into short phrases. They cannot be summarized in any random paragraph. There is intensity in every letter, and there is truth in every carefully chosen word. This letter was not born by chance. It was written because something within this person could no longer be contained. Because certain emotions demand to be expressed, even if in silence, even if just through the touch of the paper between fingers. When words overflow, they become a reflection of the soul. And this soul, in writing, revealed what may have never been voiced aloud. Each line carries a piece of what is felt. The anxiety of imagining the reaction upon reading, the hope that each word reaches the right heart, the uncertainty of how it will be received. But above all, the certainty that it was impossible to keep all of this inside. Because there are moments when it's necessary to make things clear. It's not enough to show, it's not enough to wait for the other to notice in the small gestures. There are feelings that need to be confessed, and this letter is exactly that, a confession that every thought, every sigh, every rapid heartbeat has a reason. And that reason has a name, it has a face, it has a unique way of existing and transforming everything around it. When this letter is opened, let there be no doubt, not a single word was chosen at random. No sentence was written without meaning. Everything here has a purpose, to make one feel, to make one understand, and perhaps to help someone no longer hide what they have always wanted to say. But are words truly sufficient? Can they carry the weight of what is felt? Because in reality, no paper, no ink, no attempt at expression could completely translate what exists within this heart. Still, it was impossible to remain silent. Silence has been a companion for far too long. It has held everything back, hid it away, protected it, perhaps out of fear of the response, or perhaps out of concern for what might change. But something has changed nonetheless. Something has grown, spread, taken over every thought, every moment, every space where there was once only certainty. Now there is only one certainty. This letter needed to be written. And now upon being read, a choice must be made. Ignore it or feel it. Pretend nothing has been said, or allow every word to fulfill its purpose, because some things, once revealed, cannot be forgotten. If each line is able to reach the right heart, then it will all have been worth it. Every hesitation before writing, every pause to find the exact words, every quickened heartbeat at the thought of this moment. All of it was real, just as what is described here. And what if the response does not come? If the letter is read and forgotten, if the words are lost to time? That will not change the truth that was laid out on this paper. What is felt will continue to exist, regardless of what happens next. Because true feelings do not depend on responses, they simply are. But if this letter touches the right heart, if there is a moment of recognition, if each word is received as it was written, with truth, then perhaps something new will begin to take shape. Something that has always been there, but has never had the courage to reveal itself completely. What will be done with this letter no longer depends on who wrote it. The words have been delivered. The feelings have been exposed. Now, everything is in the hands of the reader. And the only question that matters now is, how does this make you feel? Because in the end, this letter was never just about who wrote it. It has always been about who would receive it, about the impact each word would have when read, about the moment when the eyes scan the lines, and for a moment, everything around fades away. If this letter has managed to stir something within you, then it has already fulfilled its purpose. Perhaps it has caused surprise. Maybe it has brought a lump to your throat or a chill to your chest. It may have awakened memories, feelings long buried. Or perhaps it has provided confirmation of what was already known, but never spoken aloud. And if that's the case, if this letter is more than just words on a piece of paper, then something needs to be done. Because feelings like this should not be ignored. They should not be postponed as though time would resolve what can only be addressed now. Time can be treacherous. It carries with it opportunities that will not return. It takes away chances that have been delayed. It turns certainties into doubts until the right moment has passed. But what if the right moment is now? If this letter has made its way to you, it wasn't by chance. If these words have been read, if they made your heart race, if they brought a weight to your chest or a deeper sigh, then there is something that must be faced, because what has been written cannot be erased. What has been confessed cannot be taken back, and to ignore it would be the same as denying something that is already present, something that already exists, something that has already been felt. So now the decision is no longer in the hands of the writer, it is in the hands of the reader. Are you going to pretend nothing happened? Are you going to fold the paper, tuck it away in a drawer, and try to move on as if nothing has changed? Or will you allow each word to fulfill its destiny, let each feeling be acknowledged, and finally accept each truth? Because there are letters that change everything, words that span time, that leave a mark, that remain. And this is one of them. What happens next isn't up to the writer. The only thing that matters now is, what are you going to do with this? Because this letter has already made its way here. It has broken the silence, dismantled the barriers that kept everything trapped. Now each word lives outside of the paper, waiting to be recognized, waiting to find a destination. There are letters that are read and forgotten, but there are letters that stay. No matter what happens, their words leave a mark, not on the paper, but in the memory. And this is not just any letter, because it wasn't written to impress. It wasn't written to elicit quick responses or impulsive gestures. It was written to touch the most profound parts, to reach what may have been ignored for a long time. And maybe it's easier to pretend nothing has changed. Perhaps it's simpler to fold the paper and move on, as if nothing has been said, as if nothing has been felt. But what has been felt cannot be undone. The heart doesn't forget how to feel. It can be ignored, it can be silenced, but it never stops knowing the truth. And this letter carries a truth that existed even before it was written. Now, silence is no longer an option. Because words like these echo. They don't fade with time, they don't dissolve into forgetfulness. They become part of those who receive them. There are feelings that can no longer be postponed. There are truths that can no longer be ignored. What has been written here is one of them, and now what are you going to do with that? The paper can be folded, tucked away in a drawer, forgotten among other memories that once were important. But is it really possible to forget? After reading each word, after feeling every emotion printed here, can one truly just ignore it? Because some things don't just disappear. Some truths settle in the chest, and no matter how much you try to push them away, they always find a way to return, like an insistent thought that resurfaces in moments of silence, like a feeling that, even without explanation, won't leave. This letter doesn't demand immediate answers. It doesn't ask for haste, it doesn't impose urgency, but it carries a weight that cannot be denied. A weight that now belongs to whoever has read it, because now the choice is no longer in the hands of the writer. The courage has already been used to put everything into words, to turn feelings into something concrete. Now, the courage must come from the one holding this letter. Courage to accept that some things cannot be avoided. Courage to acknowledge that this message has found a home within you. Courage to admit that perhaps these words have been awaited for much longer than one imagines. And if there is doubt, if there is fear, let there also be a moment of silence. A moment to listen to your own heart, to feel the impact of what has been read, to understand that some answers don't need to be formulated. They are already within the reader. Because if this letter has made it this far, if these words have been written, if this truth has been exposed, it's because something needed to be said. Something that could no longer remain just thoughts, just unconfessed desires, just the uncertainty of what could have been. There is no more room for assumptions. There is no more time to postpone the inevitable. What was written was felt. What was felt is now real. And the only thing left to know is what will be done with it, because this letter has already fulfilled its part. It brought to light everything that had been trapped for so long. Now it rests in the hands of those who read it, waiting for a decision. But is it really possible to ignore it? After each word has been absorbed, Is it feasible to pretend that nothing has changed, that nothing was felt? Because feelings like this cannot be erased. They cannot be ripped out like a crumpled piece of paper and thrown away. They linger, and if they linger, will they turn into nostalgia? Will they become questions that go unanswered? Will they morph into that weight in the chest that arises when the mind wanders to everything that could have been? Because what was written is not a simple confession. It's a piece of someone's soul. It's a moment when truth was greater than fear. It's a record of a feeling that refused to remain silent. Now there's no turning back. What was said cannot be taken back. What was read cannot be forgotten. And if all of this is ignored, one day that paper might yellow with time, it could get lost among other memories, it might be swallowed by the passage of days. But one thing will remain, the regret of not having done anything. Because there are letters that shouldn't just be read, they should be responded to. And maybe this is one of them. So now, there's only one question left. Will silence be the answer? Or will there be the courage to face what truly matters? Because ignoring is a choice, but it's a choice that weighs heavy. A choice that lingers through the days, that haunts thoughts in the most unexpected moments. Silence may seem easier now, but what about later? Later, when night falls and everything is quiet, when thoughts can no longer be suppressed by the rush of the day, will this letter still be there, echoing in some corner of the mind? Will each word return one by one, bringing back what was felt in the moment when the eyes first traveled down its lines? Because some truths don't disappear. They remain. They blend with what already exists within the heart. They become part of who received them. And if this letter is forgotten, if it's tucked away among unimportant papers, if it's folded and set aside, will that really change anything? Will the feeling cease to exist? Will the meaning of these words lose their strength? Or will it merely become an invisible weight, a constant reminder of what could have been and never was? Time doesn't wait. It passes, it takes away opportunities. It transforms possibilities into memories of something that never occurred. And this letter carries something that deserves more than to be just a future memory. It carries a choice, a call, an invitation to something that could change everything. But for that, courage is needed. Courage to accept what was said. Courage to look within and admit what is felt. Courage not to let fear be greater than the truth that pulses in every line of this letter, because the only thing worse than making the wrong decision is never making any decision at all. So then, what will be done now? Will the paper remain just paper, or will the words it holds have real meaning? Will silence prevail, or will it finally be broken? Because there are things that cannot be postponed forever. There are answers that, even if not spoken, already exist within those who carry them. The problem is that ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. It only makes them harder to face. And now the weight of this letter is no longer in the hands of the one who wrote it. The paper can be crumpled, hidden, forgotten, but what's inside it, what was said, what was exposed is already there. It has been delivered. The question is no longer, what does this letter mean? Because that answer has already been felt. The real question now is what to do with it. Should we pretend that nothing has changed? Continue as if this confession never happened. Follow the safest path, where nothing is risked, nothing is lost, but also nothing is gained. Or should we face everything that these words carry? Have the courage to admit that some things are greater than fear, stronger than doubt, more urgent than any excuse. Because ignoring feelings doesn't erase them. They come back. They resurface in interrupted gestures, in hesitant glances, in moments of silence that speak more than any word. And time doesn't wait. Time doesn't ask if it's the right moment. It simply keeps moving, taking with it everything that's been left for later. How many times has something been felt but not said? How many opportunities have been lost out of fear of taking risks? How many what-ifs have piled up over the years? This letter cannot be just another one of those moments. It cannot become just another what-if, lost in the past. It was written to be read, to be felt, to provoke a response, and now the response needs to come. Whatever it may be, silence may be the easiest choice, but is it the right one? Will, looking back in some time, the decision made today bring relief or regret? The only certainty is that what has been written here is real, and now all that remains to be seen is what will be done with this. Silence or truth? The choice is in your hands. Comment, leave your like, and subscribe now. Like and